Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, just winding down my Christmas vacation here in beautiful Connecticut, but I came across a fascinating article that was just published a couple of weeks back on the astonishing surge in Patriot militia activity over just the last year or so. It's a study that was conducted by the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, and the report is entitled From the Capitol Riot to the Midterms, Shifts in American Far-Right Mobilization Between 2021 and 2022. It's an absolutely fascinating study on how Patriot militia groups are utterly surging. Their organized activity in 2022 has exceeded beyond the level of activity reported in 2021. And 2021 was already considered to be one of the most active and expansionist years yet for Patriot militia. So for example, there were 780 events such as demonstrations, training, recruitment, things like that, that were recorded, upwards of 780 notable Patriot militia events for the whole of 2021, which was a record year. But the study notes that as of November of this year, that number was almost exceeded by 750 Patriot militia events, and we still had another month to go. So the movement continues to grow. One report found that the number of Patriot militias has actually doubled in just the last 10 years. Organizations such as, the Boogaloo Boys and Oath Keepers and Three Percenters and the Proud Boys they're just merely just the tip of the iceberg of what's estimated now to be over 500 active Patriot militias throughout the nation. And the key here is that we're seeing militias become increasingly politically organized, even in the bluest of the blue states in our nation. So for example, there have been a number of articles reporting of late on a stunning development in a number of counties in California, of all places, right? Where they're what they call far-right militias are actually taking over the highest political offices in the counties. In Shasta County, which is about 3 hours north of Sacramento, Patriot militias have actually organized voters to recall several rhinos, Republicans in name only, from office, as well as take over a number of boards of supervisors. But what makes it even better is that the organizers of that Patriot revolt in Shasta, they put together a blueprint of how they took back their county. And it's a blueprint that's called Red, White, and Blueprint. And it's actually an organization founded by a fellow by the name of Carlos Zapata. He's a retired Marine, militia member. He's a restaurateur. And he's been busy recruiting neighboring counties to implement this Red, White, and Blueprint strategy to take back their respective governments. And that is exactly what is happening. For example, in neighboring Nevada County, where Trump won by a 15-point margin. Again, keep in mind, this is in California, right? Well, they initiated their own recall efforts modeled after Shasta County to get rid of all the rhinos on their board of supervisors. And we're seeing this model, in effect, going through a rinse and repeated cycle at local county levels throughout California and indeed much of the nation. Wait till you see what they're doing in Texas. You're going to absolutely love it. But first, it's times like these when I'm so thankful for the amazing reporting and informationally rich news resources coming from the Epoch Times. And now I'm so excited to announce the launch of Epoch TV. Epoch TV is a censorship-free video platform with original news programs like Crossroads, The Larry Elder Show, Facts Matter, American Thought Leaders, and documentaries investigating critical issues that are not covered anywhere else in the legacy media. It's absolutely amazing. And to make it even better, they now have a special offer just for our Turley Talks viewers. Just click on that link below and sign up and start watching. No credit card required, no strings attached. And if you decide to subscribe within 14 days, it's just $1 for 2 months. You heard that right, gang. $1 for 2 months. What a way to start off the new year. So what are you waiting for? Click on that link below or go to watchepoch.com/Turley and subscribe today. back in 2020, Politico ran an article entitled, "How the Oath Keepers Are Quietly Infiltrating Local Government." The article highlighted Hood County, Texas, which is a good conservative community just outside of Fort Worth. And the article zeroes in on their constable. Constables in Texas are akin to sheriffs, right? So they're elected to office once every 4 years and so on. So the constable of Hood County turns out to be a proud and very open member of the Oath Keepers. And he's not alone. There are actually several Oath Keepers who hold office in Hood County, particularly law enforcement office. And what the Political article recognized is that Patriot militias and law enforcement are becoming, in many parts of our nation, more and more identical. So, for example, the ultra-left Guardian ran the rather panicked and sensationalist headline, "White supremacists and militias have infiltrated police." The Washington Post complained that police were refusing to control Patriot militias largely because law enforcement members actually locked arms with them in response particularly to BLM protests. A number of media outlets are recognizing that militias and law enforcement are indeed becoming increasingly indistinguishable from one another in many parts of the nation. So from organizing political activities to winning seats in boards of supervisors in various counties throughout the nation to actually providing official law enforcement from California to Texas and everywhere in between, Patriot militias are becoming more and more involved in American civic life than ever before. So obviously the question is, why is this? What's going on here? Well, in many respects, what we have to understand is that all of this sudden concern in the media about the rise of far-right militias and they're taking over county governments and law enforcement really is all too little too late. And that's because what's happening with law enforcement is the same thing that's happening in quite literally every other sector of society. It's the rise of what's historically been called a parallel police. It's basically, as you know, an alternative world or economy that represents a alternative or parallel world to the woke institutions that work together to suppress free speech and the patriotic values of faith, family, and freedom. We're, of course, seeing the rise of alt tech. We're seeing the rise of alt news media and the guise of course, Epoch Times and Breitbart and Newsmax and, of course, talk radio. We're seeing the rise of alt currencies, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that are increasingly being recognized as viable currencies that aren't tied to any particular government or state or corporation. We're seeing the rise of alternative banks that are very intentionally dislodging themselves from the Federal Reserve System. We're seeing the rise of alternatives to health insurance in the guise of what are called healthcare cost-sharing ministries. That's something that the Amish, who are really the paragon of a parallel society, the Amish have been using for years. We're seeing the rise, of course, of homeschooling. It shot up 700% in some areas of our nation as an alternative to education, our public schools. And we are seeing the rise of Patriot militias to provide law and order in the midst of the breakdown of law enforcement, particularly in blue states and Democrat-dominated cities. As long as a parallel economy rooted in faith, family, and freedom grows, Patriot militias will continue to flourish, which means, despite unprecedented surges in support and activity, when it comes to Patriot militias, we ain't seen nothing yet. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on Kari Lake scoring a major legal win, all as efforts to recall Katie Hobbs have officially begun. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.